Good afternoon, everybody. This is a Windsor real estate conversation for today. There was just an article that was in Yahoo Finance today, written by the chief econ or the second in command RBC economist Robert Hogue. And this is getting a lot of play in the news. We have to be very careful of our newscasts any longer because so much is picked out of thin air. And so much news is simply created as being news. So we have to be very careful. I don't know about you, but I don't even watch the news anymore. It's like the weather. They're telling you it's going to rain today and it's a beautiful sunny day. It's like, okay, you got that wrong. Do they ever apologize for their stories that they have wrong? No. So they're talking about a historic correction. So let's talk about these words. What's a correction? A correction is when any market is down more than 10%. That is a correction. This gentleman, Robert Hogue, is saying that it could be a historic correction. So what would be historic from a Canada real estate market? The last massive correction was a 15% correction, I think in the 1990s. So a historic correction would mean anything that's 15% or more. Okay, so he's saying it could be a historic correction, okay, in his article. So you read his article and you think, oh my God, the sky's falling, houses are going to be $12. This is going to be great. And he says specifically in BC and Ontario, things will be bad because affordability is extremely stretched. We know that. You can't buy a house in Toronto. I mean, they're at 1.5 million. It takes a hell of a lot of income to be able to qualify for a house in Toronto. BC and Ontario, though, as you know, Windsor is part of Ontario still. Detroit wanted us back in the day, but Ontario, anyway, we won't go there into the history. But sales to fall 23% through this year and 15% next year. But then he goes on and says that the 42% drop in home sales will exceed the other declines. Question mark. Because if you add 23 and 15, that's only 38. Where does he come up with 42? His math is a little bit funny. It's one of those new math types of things. National benchmark prices, national. In the article, national, not specific to your town, but national benchmark prices will fall more than 12% peak to trough. And peak to trough becomes important. A 12% decline in prices by early 2023. 12%. So a house in Toronto that's 1.5 million is going to drop by 12% by spring of 2023. Bank rates to increase to 3.25%. I think it's at 2.75 now. So just another 0.5% increase they're calling for by October. Okay. 0.5 wouldn't be so bad. Ontario to fall 38%. So prices to fall, or Ontario's sales to fall by 38%. Prices falling more than 14% peak to trough. In the 1990s, they dropped 15% peak to trough. Historic, that's where he's saying this could be a historic. It could be higher than the 1990s. We have yet to see that, but that peak to trough, 14% drop in pricing point in Ontario. More affordable areas better off. So like Windsor, the city of Windsor, look for the city of Windsor to only have a 5 to 8% price decline. Peak to trough. He's already wrong with that, by the way. Welcome and consider this to be a welcome cool down from our overextended market. Then he also says solid demographic fundamentals, including soaring immigration, will help. So the more people we bring into the country, the more housing units we need. Those folks will end up pushing out other folks from houses. And since we're not building enough houses, our soaring immigration, which it is, we're bringing in more people into Canada to extend out and diversify out our economy, which is a very good thing. I'm an immigrant to Canada as well, too. And so at the end of the day, this is all good, and that should help because everybody comes to Ontario. Okay. So let's look at this. sales to fall 23% this year and 15% next year. So a 38% drop in sales. We've already seen that in the city of Windsor. As you know, last year in July, we sold 130 houses last week. Last week. This year, we only sold 64 houses, which is a 50% decline in home sales, technically. Peak to trough, 64. Okay, 50% drop. He's calling for a 38% drop. So we've already got a 50% drop. Okay, so maybe the floor is in Windsor. We don't know. But based upon his data, and he's supposedly the smart guy in the room, we should be there. Then benchmark prices, he says, should drop by 12%. Benchmark prices falling more than 14%. Okay, so let's look at benchmark prices. In Windsor, the average selling price, the highest it's been, its peak was earlier this year at $705,000. A couple weeks ago, the average selling price was $463,000. That's why I kept telling you it's the best time ever to be out there buying a house in the city of Windsor. Housing prices have dropped 34% on average. And he's predicting a total of 38%. So isn't Windsor's drop pretty much over? Especially since he says more affordable locations will be better off. Okay, maybe it's over. We'll see. Wilson, we're right in the middle of it. Last week's average selling price increased from $463,000 to $619,000. So that's only a 12% drop. Could we be seeing a confirmation that the drop in Windsor real estate prices is over? Don't know that yet. We have yet to see that play out. We don't know that because we don't know what the data going forward is going to be. But could it be over? I mean, that's a big difference between negative 34 to negative 12. And prices falling more than 14%. Okay. So if we use an example of a house I sold in Gladstone in March, in the peak of the market, March was the peak of the market. It truly was. I was living in March of this year. I was a realtor in March of this year. Prices were soaring. They were parabolic. I wrote about it many times. Prices are now parabolic. What that means is they're going straight up. And there was no justification for these pricing points other than there was just a ton of money from investors coming in. There was just a ton. Tons and tons and tons. Because they were advertising campaigns in Toronto saying, buy a house in Windsor. Invest in a house in Windsor. Houses are cheap there. Come on down. And they were coming down in droves over and over and over again. I've done many videos about that. So peak was here. I sold that house for $517,000. The trough, so the drop, 38% or 12% drop in pricing points is what he's calling for. So if you do that math, you find that the drop should be $72,000. So that house on Gladstone is worth $445,000. Back to its normal pricing point. And we had offers at $460,000. The other offers were $460,000 and $465,000, right within what I felt that the house was maximum value was. I thought that its value was between $440,000 and $460,000 was what I thought its value was when I took the listing. So having the peak to trough be dropping 12%, who cares? We're down to the normal pricing point that the house should have sold for had not the Toronto money come flying into Windsor and drove up all the prices. Or just to a regular stabilized market. We're back to reality now. Our cocaine addiction in March has ended, and we're back to our reality. We haven't escaped our reality. It's just we're now drinking regular Kool-Aid, if you will. So at the end of the day, we're already there. So again, if you look at these things, housing sales have dropped more than he's predicted. Are we to a floor? Our pricing points have already corrected, and they're on their way back up. Is that over for the city of Windsor? In March, which was when we were drinking the Kool-Aid, our peak was 517. That was definitely the peak. And our trough is what they're selling for now, 445. So we're back to reality is all that we are. When you read this article in the Windsor, or not in the Windsor Star, but on Yahoo Finance from these folks at RBC, they're saying, oh my God, things are going to get really, really bad. They're writing an article about how it is now. It's already now, but we've already been there and we're already getting better. It's old news. From the city of Windsor's perspective, at least based upon what we're seeing in the math. That's why they never write an article about, let me be specific in my article. They never are specific. They always talk about national benchmarks. They talk about normal things, that there should be a decline in prices, that there should be an increase in interest rates, that there should be a fall in some kind of valuation. And more affordable areas should be better off. Of course, cheaper markets, people can move to. They can afford there. So yeah, it's like used cars. I can buy a $10,000 used car today. I can't buy a $20,000 used car today. I got to think about it a little bit. Same kind of concept. So it's a welcome cool down. That's true too. You can breathe a little bit, take some vacation, get some time in. That's why I was in Las Vegas. Spend a little bit of that extra money I made last year because it was crazy. Spend some of that extra commission I made because I sold a house on Gladstone for freaking $517,000. And that the solid demographic fundamentals, including soaring immigration, will help. So yeah, again, this is going to create another problem that the government won't be able to fix because more people needs more houses. And as we know in Ontario, and they never talk about this either, and we know in Ontario, we have over 41% of the country's population, but we only have about 38% of the country's houses. So there's about a 3% shortage of houses in any price point. Even affordable houses, there's a bigger problem with that. That's why they're trying to build small little teeny tiny laneway houses next to the big mansion. That's why they want to do that. They also want to bring poorer people into the rich neighborhoods as well too. Don't forget that, but it's okay. It's all good. But that's why they're doing those kinds of things. They're coming in and put a big garage on this one, building these little laneway houses so that more housing units can get built. It's good. And those will be lower average selling prices as well too, which is good. So it skews our numbers and makes things better. We're already doing all of that. So if you read this article from Mr. Robert Hogue, Robert, you sit there and say, gee, oh my gosh, things are going to be really, really bad. But he's just writing about what's going on right now. That's why my client that has a listing over in a different area in the city of Windsor, I'd have to get a new piece of paper if I wanted to keep using that marker. But so the only comparables, as you know, if you watch that video, were 600, 660 back in March. And I said, you can't use that data set because that has corrected. And there's been no new sales to be able to look at. So then, okay, fine. If you look at what happened over there and what Mr. Hogue is calling for, he's calling for a 12% correction. So do the math. 660 by 12%, it's hard to do this looking through the phone, is 79,000 minus, that means 580. And that's exactly where I was at without even reading the article. houses should be selling for then in that neighborhood, and that a side by side, an interior unit should be less than that by about $50,000. So I believe that an interior unit's new value today is about $530,000, but there's been no sales to be able to prove that. And that's what we do to find valuation. We look at current sales, not prior sales from March, the market high. So at the end of the day, don't worry about what you read. Read it with a grain of salt. I hope this explainer video helps you to understand what was in the article and helps you to be able to understand what we're seeing in the Windsor market already. It's already here. The storm's already here, and it may have already passed. Because storms pass. We might be picking up the pieces, but we're sure are doing a good job of picking up the pieces when our average selling price for $463 to $619, that's a pretty damn good move, and picking up the pieces as well too. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I hope that helps you to be able to understand how you have to read these articles with a grain of salt to be able to even understand and make sense of what they're even talking about, and then compare that to the data that they're writing the article about. Because they already have the data. And so they're writing an article around that data. And the data's already here. The storm's already here. But the storm may have already passed because it's a beautiful sunny day here in the city of Windsor. It was raining all day yesterday. Yesterday may have been the storm. But there may be another storm cloud on the horizon. We don't know that. We'll know it when it starts getting dark outside. So thanks for watching. Have a great day. And if you have any questions about Windsor real estate, in any way I can help you at all around finance, mortgages, life insurance, financial planning, and real estate, don't hesitate to give me a call. I'd be more than happy to help you. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.